y'all remember when we all thought the EB02 searcher would absolutely take over the metagame? I mean, hey, I did as well. It seems like with EB02 here, and the fact that we've already gone through the metagame on the eastern side, we don't really see these cards at all. And I think that's because of the power of the Straw Hats package and how aggressive it is. It's almost like you can't take the time off to play something like this, although there are decks that can. That's what I want to explore today. I'm going to go over where these cards have ultimately landed, what the previous predictions were, and where they honestly can see play if the meta game does slow down a bit. Because at the end of the day, these are slower cards, but they are ones that can search for your bigger bombs. The problem is again, just don't really have the time to get there based on the metagame right now. So I'm basing this off of Atrocious's recent tweet talking about, remember when y'all said that these EB02 events were going to take over every single deck? I mean, fair enough. I did as well. Even here, my video down here, are these broken? And gotta clickbait them all, add a little shadow, make them stick out, like do the whole content creator thing, right? So I thought these were going to be powerful. And to be fair, if you're playing 4 Emperors, the favorite or unofficial favorite multiplayer format in the One Piece TCG, if y'all want to play with me and see the gameplay on the channel, then join the link down below and join the Discord. These cards are absolutely insane in 4 Emperors. In multiplayer, in multiple colors, I should say, you just get access to 2, which is great. And they're not color restricted, so you could use the blue one in a 4 Emperors deck to get a yellow card. You could use the purple one to search for a black card. And obviously you have the cost restriction, but in a multiplayer format where on average you're playing more bombs, you're playing more expensive things, you're not playing the lower cost stuff. Whereas in constructed, you want to be really efficient and low to the ground. Your early plays tend to be searchers, sometimes blockers, and just cards that have a lot of effect, if not 2k blockers. In 4 Emperors, you tend to be playing more expensive things. So if you look at the EB02 metagame, now this is a article from February 17th, a while ago, but one that does seem to align, or at least the West does take it as a template going into this new metagame. Now that it's on the sim and everything, we see that the metagame shows us that there are some control decks at the top, but those are decks that generally have been good for a bit. Like Marshall D Teach, they're going to be really good at what they do. Not much has changed. They gained the new that new 5-cost card in OP10. But when it comes to Rob Lucci, that's going to be a deck that people have tried to say has been nerfed, but does a pretty good job against beating Monkey D. Luffy. And then Green Purple Luffy is just the deck of choice. With the EB02 Sanji and just some other cards that help ramp Dawn, it just feels like a lot of the cards it's playing just end up costing like 1 or 2 Dawn, even though it's printed at 4 or 5 on the card. There's just a lot of value to be had. And when it comes to being aggressive in this metagame, it's either being controlling enough to stop the aggression, and so you tend to see a lot more black in the metagame, and Shanks is up there, tends to be able to like 1-for-1 not bad and get cards out of your hand just by swinging in large. But even Doflamingo found its way into the tier 1. Now, of course, this was at a way different time. This was February 17th, bans and all that stuff. That's a whole different discussion. But now we do see the prevalence of Lucci, Teach, and Monkey D. Luffy, albeit very early in the Western EB02 metagame. And so with that in mind, we are not going to be seeing a lot of these cards. And so with that, we do see there are some strategies that can take advantage of it. Because if something was to answer Green Purple Luffy, which to be fair for now, I don't think that's going to exist. Going into the OP11 full metagame, we're also going to see the introduction of not necessarily a fast deck, but one that really just has all the resources in the world. And that's going to be Blue Purple Luffy. And that's going to be all over the metagame because its late game is really good. And the problem with that deck is that it just does what it needs to do and it gets to its late game. Whereas a lot of other folks need to enable their late game play to it. That deck can just play, and all of a sudden it's drawing 2 cards of a turn. But when it comes to other decks, there are decks like Shanks that can take advantage of the red searcher because it does have a fair amount of cards, especially higher up, that if it wants to dig for it can. The problem is the card's obviously a brick in hand, and it can happen where there tend to be, especially at the top end, a lot of bricks in hand for a deck like this, especially if you're going the more rush focused builds. You're playing something like 5-cost Luffy, which tends to be the meta right now. Then you're just going to run into a lot more bricks in hand. And so if you have an event that's not able to counter out into aggression, then just searching into your 10-cost Shanks isn't going to mean anything if you're doing that early on and you can't even play the Shanks to try and win the game at that point. So I do like some of the options that, especially if you're going to be dealing with an aggressive metagame where you could potentially get to 0 life. forcing something like Goldie Roger could be a really great way to just like force the win in those type of scenarios. Blackbeard is another list that could technically take advantage of this, but the whole point of this deck is that it's just going to search, dig, and find its 10 cost anyway. There just isn't the room. You just don't need it in this list. So yes, technically the 2-cost searcher could be really good in this deck as a way to search for your Martial D Teach and stuff. It's just that the searchers kind of just search themselves, so it's just better off that way, whereas the 2 costs kind of restricts you to getting the bigger stuff in the deck. Rebecca's another slow deck that could take advantage of this. Not really meta at all, but the searching ability is printed onto the leader. You have something like Kalgara, which actually, honestly, be honest with me, this deck could actually take advantage of this. In a deck that's looking to constantly cheat out higher power stuff, just searching deeper for something is really important, especially in a deck list that naturally has stage KO, right? So you may place 1 stage with the cost of 1 at the bottom of its owner's deck. That's pretty good. The purple Luffy stage is actually something that a lot of people are thinking about teching into. I played the other day, I was playing Kaido, and I was playing into an NL deck that was playing into this card called Braham, that like you had to bottom deck a stage and then you could like you KO'd something. So people are teching into stage, like stage hate. So Kalgara has its merit. It has a lot of stuff that honestly can be searched with the yellow searcher. Again, it's just about like where is it going in the list. But it's one that as like 2 copies of, you could generally like see it in something like this. Bo is another one that I think like has some consideration, like slow blue. Not fast blue, Doflamingo type of stuff, not fast blue, slow blue, where you are bouncing a bunch of things, be able to dig for your Jozu, be able to dig for your pudding, stuff like that. Like a lot of these are great options, and it's a way to search into something like your Kaidos and a lot of your bigger stuff. If you need to remove something massive, if you need to remove the board, like imagine on your 8 Dawn turn or your 10 Dawn turn, you play 2-cost searcher, you look up Gravity Blade, it's not bad, right? And so something like this could have the space for it. But the problem is there is actually a good portion of the deck that tends to be lower cost. You are playing a lot of like Sengoku and like rearranging and stuff like that. But that doesn't mean like even, yeah, you do have cards that you can look up with Sengoku. Doesn't mean that you don't have cards that you can look up with your EB02 searcher. So again, it's not like it can be played or it should be played now, but it can, right? Because of the fact that the metagame is more aggressive, it forces you to play on curve constantly and have something out. You do want to make sure you're playing a character every turn, if not multiple, or just getting rid of the board, because that is what green, purple Luffy forces you to do. And that's ultimately where the metagame lands here. These cards suck right now, and that is just a symptom of how powerful the Straw Hats package has become. And we probably won't see a change for a while. This is going to be our metagame, right? We already had bans. Bandai isn't that active with them. A lot of people are just going to have to adapt. And the adaptation is going to suck, especially as a Nami player for myself, and as a budding Kaido player, the aggression sucks. It hurts to deal with. Nami, I don't think, has the tools for it, and they've been doing a very good job of balancing a lot of the blue cards around the fact that they work with multi-color leaders, or they just don't have the effect that you need. Like, they have very specific ones. For example, the cards that are being spoiled for the new Kuzan leader, they specifically like on play like discard things, and obviously with the Kuzan leader you get a lot of you get draw out of that. So it's a good way to balance it. Like, they're using card design to balance around the Nami, which is good. It just means that we're not getting too many cards here that support Nami. So shout out to that. Nami doesn't want to be using these. It wants to be using very efficient, low cost stuff. I'm not playing this event to search for my Rush Usopp or my Cavendish or my Zeph or whatever you want to think about. And the cards are largely not great for now. But in a world post-rotation where we are in a rotational metagame, something like this can work, especially if it's reprinted down the line and kept in. For the slower decks, the control decks, the mid-range decks, when you're looking for cards to fill into and search for your other cards, something like this can be really powerful. So I think in the future, down the line, something like this is going to be really good, especially, again, if they continue to reprint it. But for now, it's just not where it needs to be in the One Piece TCG.